Welcome back. In Massachusetts, we saw the first day of testimony in Karen Reed's second murder trial. Prosecutors claim she hit her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe, with her SUV and left him to die in the snow back in 2022. She's pleaded not guilty to several charges, including second-degree murder. Reed's first trial last year ended in a hung jury. Her attorneys say she was framed. Reed spoke to reporters while leaving the courthouse yesterday.
I feel great. Today went well.
We didn't hear the words framed. Those were words used during the first trial. We didn't hear that exact language. We heard corruption. We heard deceit. Is this a different strategy?
We don't like reruns.
CBS News Boston reporter Penny Kmitt is outside the courthouse now and joins us there from Dedham, Massachusetts. Penny, I know that you were in the courthouse yesterday. How is this second trial shaping up to be different than what we saw the first time around?
Well, what you just heard from Karen Reed, right? We don't like reruns. So something that was very different about opening statements yesterday is that her defense team, rather than focusing on maybe alternative suspects, they're focusing on what they're calling a botched police investigation. And they're really blaming everything on the lead investigator in this case, Michael Proctor, who, if you followed the first trial, you absolutely know who that is. He has connections to people in the House. They're basically claiming that he's the reason for this whole mishandled investigation, and she cannot be found guilty as a result. Something else that was a little bit different and quite obvious, of course, is the new prosecutor, Hank Brennan. He is no stranger to a courtroom, but he is new to the Karen Reed case. He used Karen Reed's own words against her. That's what we were expecting, playing a clip from a documentary interview where she says, "Maybe I did clip John O'Keefe with my car." Of course, a very different story than her defense team. And something else that was pretty different is he hinted, now we'll have to see how this plays out in trial, but he hinted that he has evidence that John O'Keefe's phone battery will prove, the temperature of it will prove that he was in the snow for several hours before his death. So while this trial maybe has similar lyrics, it seems that the tune is going to be a bit different the second time around.
Really remarkable that a phone's temperature could also be a piece of evidence, a data point in this trial. So if you're the jury and you wouldn't have had an opinion before this, otherwise you would have been filtered out, what impression would you have received yesterday, and what can we expect next?
I'd say probably a better impression of the state. This new prosecutor, he gave his opening statements, no scripts, no notes. He walked back and forth, spoke to all 18 jurors. That is not at all what we saw during the first trial. We know that, he's a pretty high-profile attorney. He was the defense attorney for the infamous Boston mobster Whitey Bulger. So it seems that he really did his due diligence here. But the defense also had a very strong opening statement. Alan Jackson, of course, no stranger to a courtroom. He has served on some very, very high-profile cases. So I think the jury has a lot to consider here. We also heard testimony from two witnesses. These are the same witnesses we heard from in the first trial. One of them will be back on the stand today, an EMT, and then a friend of John O'Keefe's. And again, this is shaping up to be a long trial. Still expecting about 6 to 8 weeks. We heard from just 2 of potentially 150 witnesses.
Wow. All right, Penny Kmitt, we appreciate the update from outside the courthouse.